try that. This is holding. All right, so I titled this presentation, The Value of Remote Sessions. And the reason I did that was because recently I've been doing more Healy sessions remote and having a lot of success with it. And then discussing this with my team, I realized that they were having a lot of success as well. And so I thought, and we also were talking about the fact that when you start doing remote sessions, people want a Healy. So I thought, well, we're going to talk about remote sessions. How do you do it? And go from there. So
hey, Steve.
What we're going to do here, if I can.
Hey,
move.
Steve. Are you going to record this?
Yes. I think it's already recording. What's not happening right now, oh, there we go. Let me see here. Okay, so I don't know if some of the screen's being blocked or what. On my end, it is a little bit, and I don't know how to get rid of it. The goal of this webinar is to present options we have for running Healy Resonance for ourselves and for others. So you're going to learn a few things that we've learned over the past couple months about how to use the resonance effectively, and then how to use that effectively with others. All right, so what's included in this webinar? Okay, I'm going to briefly review the Healy packages. I'm going to introduce the distinction of the resonance package versus other Healy packages and learn why this package is what we need to be introducing to others, even if you have another Healy package or do not have a Healy yourself at this point. Now, I'm not going to be covering how to set up a Healy and how to turn it on and all these operational things with the Healy packages, including the resonance. Rick Fleshman, our general manager for the US, there's 2 training programs, well over an hour. I think they're about an hour and a half each. And they're on Telegram. If you're not using Telegram, you need to be using Telegram. It's an app on your phone. And I also put a link here where you can find the desktop version of Telegram. And the Rick's group is Team Healy USA. So if you're not familiar with using Telegram, hopefully that'll get you started. And again, the links to these trainings are in the Telegram group. So that's what you want to do. All right, so for new members and guests, there are 4 Healy packages. There's one Pink Dot app on your phone for the first 3. And then there's a Blue Dot app for the resonance. So there's actually 2 apps that you use for the Healy. And if you have the resonance, you're gonna load the Blue Dot first, set it up, then you're gonna load the Pink Dot first, set it up, and then you're gonna load the Blue Dot. So that's how we get started with the Healy. I'm gonna cover the Fast Start bonus right up front because I want you to be aware that when you sell a resonance, even if you don't have a Healy, you get paid $500 on every resonance sold. If you sell 3 of them, you get a resonance for free. When you the Fast Start clock starts when you register as a member with Healy, not when you get your own Healy. So as soon as you register as a member, the clock starts ticking on the 60 days. The Fast Start details are in your back office. All right. Healy Resonance has most of the programs that are in the other 3 packages. So the other 3 packages are, again, the Gold package, the Holistic, and the Holistic Plus. I think there's 180 programs in total. And when you have a resonance, you're working with 300,000 frequencies in all these programs. The resonance does not use wristbands or ear clips. And the resonance is the only version of the Healy that does analysis. So it analyzes what programs will resonate with you the most at the time you do the analysis. So if I did an analysis on myself right now, the top 5 programs would come up, and 10 minutes from now, if I did an analysis again, it may or may not be the same 5 programs because we're constantly changing. So it's really important to understand that the analysis is working at the time you do the analysis. All right. Let me take a little sip of water. So when you purchase a residence, as I mentioned, you're going to download the Healy Pink app first, and then the Healy Blue Dot next. The Blue Dot is the residence. The residence app is activated using a master key, which is an amazing code unique to the person investing in the residence. This master key is extremely important because the residence won't work without it. And so if you want to install the residence on another phone, you're going to have the master key or an iPad or something like that. So you want to save the master key. It's going to ask you that during setup, and pay attention. And some people just kind of miss this point, and then there's difficulties. So what I do is I've saved it in a couple different places on my computer. I have it in an email address. I have it in Dropbox that I use, a couple different places that I've saved it. All right, so once you have the master key operational, then the first thing you're going to do is you're going to set yourself up as a client. What does that mean? It's a really simple process. You'll see it on the screen. It says add new client, and you import a picture, a facial picture. It's going to ask you personal information, name, address, telephone, where you were born, date of birth, things like that. Now, it's not a big deal for the person that owns the residence, okay? But if you're going to do remote on someone, you're going to need to alert them that you're going to have to ask them some personal questions. And you have to be sure that they're going to be comfortable with that. I have never had any problems with people sharing their information for a Healy remote session, never, okay? And I will say this to you, that if you are running the residence on a pet, and for example, I'm running analysis and programs on a horse that's 70 miles away. Well, I set the horse up as a client. So you have to set your pet up as a client. And you're going to say, well, where was it born? Sometimes you're not going to know that. Well, just do the best you can. Maybe you don't know the age of the pet. Do the best you can. But a picture is going to be really, really helpful with pets and horses. Again, when it comes to operating the residence, it's important to look at the residence training that I mentioned earlier by Rick's group in Telegram. Now, this is just to emphasize that the whole family can use the Healy, and that's true for all versions of the Healy. And it's just a little bit easier from my point of view to run the residence because everyone's set up as a client. You're going to do an analysis on each individual. You're going to know what to run. It takes the guesswork out of what programs are the best for you, and you're not using the wristbands or earplugs. So it's just really, really easy to do once you set yourself up and then you set other members of your family up. All right, so what does the Healy really do? Okay, and it works, the resonance works on frequencies. So, and the other 3 apps work on microcurrent. And that's something you're just going to need to understand and learn over time, but right now that's not the purpose of this particular webinar. So the Healy gives us helps us develop healthy physical and emotional energy. Plus the resonance unit is an amazing enhancement with our energy centers or chakras. And again, that's another whole area of study. But everything starts at the cellular level. We have trillions of cells. Healthy cells replicate healthy cells. I've got a picture of this for you. This is one of my favorite graphics to use when I'm introducing Healy to someone that's new, because it explains, or it depicts rather, what's a healthy cell, and then all the way down to where a cell becomes sick, diseased, and ultimately dies. So on the lower left-hand corner, at least left for me, it shows 70 microvolts. That's the voltage of a healthy cell, 70 microvolts. Now, as we go forward, as we age, we encounter stress, we encounter toxins, and that starts weakening our cells, and they start decreasing in voltage value. And Healy begins the process of restoring healthy cells, starting with what we resonate with the most. So that's if you're using the resonance unit. If you're not using the resonant package, then you're going to have to decide what you feel is going to resonate with you the most. But the analysis is not done for you. That's an analysis that you would have to do yourself, and it's fine. There's really no mistakes you can make here. It's really talking about the difference between you making a decision what you think is optimal and Healy telling you what's optimal, like it does with the resonance. Over here on the right of my screen, there's a disclaimer. I want to point out that this is an international disclaimer, and it's not the US disclaimer. I'll get to the US disclaimer in a minute. Healy is a medical device. That is a very important statement. It's treatment of pain, chronic pain, fibromyalgia, skeletal pain, migraine, as well as for the supportive treatment of mental illness such as depression, anxiety-related sleep disorders, all other applications of Healy, as well as the cell membrane tension model, according to this person, is not recognized as conventional medicine due to the lack of evidence of a conventional medicine process. I used this for this presentation because it's expanded in terms of describing what the Healy does, and that's important. But I'm going to caution you to be very, very careful with what we represent. We don't make any medical claims. We are allowed to talk about the Healy's impact on let me see. We're allowed to talk about the Healy impact on pain. So what I normally should say is there's no medical claims, and do not ask me about Healy and specific health conditions. There are testimonial groups on Telegram and Facebook. And you can read those, and you can get the information that will help you understand how well Healy works. But we don't share second-party testimonials, only our own, only our first-person testimonials in a public setting. I often tell stories of other people when I'm having a one-on-one conversation, but I'm not public with this. I'm not. Very, very careful, and I make it very clear. I'm not making any representation that Healy does any healing diagnostics of health conditions or any other medical claims. So let's see what it says our certificate in the US says. This device is designed to be used for temporary relief of pain associated with sore and aching muscles in the shoulder, waist, back, arms, legs, due to strain from exercise or normal household work activities, and for the symptomatic relief and management of chronic, intractable pain and relief of pain associated with arthritis. That's on our certificate in the US. Okay, let me go back here for a second. So I want to point out that we're electrical before we are chemical. We have, some say 70 trillion cells in our body, others say 100 trillion. All I know it's a lot, okay? Again, the voltage of a healthy cell is minus 70 microvolts. As we approach minus 50 and beyond, sickness begins, and then disease, and then the death of the cells, and possibly ourselves. So the microvolts of our cells translate into frequencies. If you ever met somebody who's an energy healer, you would hear them describe how they work with frequencies. Frequencies are individual, meaning the frequencies in my body are individual to me, okay? Now, there's a range of frequencies that are associated with different parts of our body. So, for example, the liver has approximately 400, Healy has approximately 400 frequencies for the liver. So if it's evaluating the liver, it's not going to deliver 400 frequencies. It's going to deliver the frequencies that you need at the most at that time. So the scope of this webinar does not include the information on what all disrupts our cells. For now, there are 3 things that I'm going to point out that does disrupt our cells. Those are stress, radiation from Wi-Fi, cell phones, and toxins in everything we encounter, including our food and water. All right. So again, the targeted frequencies help restore healthy cells. Remember, minus 70 microvolts. Over time, that's the goal. Does that mean that we're going to restore every one of our cells to minus 70 microvolts over time with the Healy? No, it doesn't. It means that we're going to continue to improve and get healthy. Keep in mind that every minute of every day, something is happening with our cells. And a lot of that stuff that's happening is designed to impair them. So the use of the Healy every day is extremely important. And we'll talk about some of the options for how you do that a little bit later. Okay. So what follows are the steps of how we use the Resonance remote and setting options. At this point, I'm going to share with you that there's no perfect formula here. However, I can tell you that my expert team members and their team members are getting results. So my current conclusion is there's no wrong way. There's nothing like, can you run it too long? Yes, you can, especially if you're just getting started with Healy, and there could be a detox effect. So it's low and slow, meaning you run it for just short periods of time, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. Okay, so the steps to using the Resonance. I talked about setting the person or pet up as a client. Healy tells you what you need. In summary, facial picture is good, personal details, we'll cover that. Once you have the data for the client set up, discuss with them what you are doing and when. So for example, it's, let's say that I'm gonna do a remote session at 7:00 p.m. this evening, okay? And I'm talking with someone that I'm gonna do the remote on. I'll let them know that I'm gonna begin at 7:00. I'm going to let them know that they can set an intention right now or at 7:00 for what they want the result to be of the session. I don't know what the result's going to be. I haven't run the analysis yet, but I'm going to tell them what's going to come up for them is the programs that Healy recognizes being the top 5 programs that should be run right now. So what often comes up when you're talking about data is that people will say, is my information secure? And the answer is yes. All the data is encrypted and it's stored in the medical cloud of Healy. That's a unique cloud for Healy. It's not shared with any other company, and it's very, very secure. They have to pass actually a technical audit every 3 months to verify that they are still compliant with being secure. So I want to come back to this point because a lot of people don't focus on this enough, which is, can somebody please mute, please? And that's the intention. So what's an example of an intention? It's very simple. I intend for Healy to identify the programs that are going to help me the most now or today. So there's a lady that I'm working with over in Lakeland, and I asked her simply to pause several times a day and just focus on the intention of the Healy programs coming up that are going to best to help her. And actually, I'm working with her on her horse, and I asked her to do the same thing for her horse. And then I set the same intention when I'm getting ready to run the Resonance. So intention is very important. And I heard on another call today the importance of setting an intention for the different for the microcurrent versions as well. So intention is really important part of Healy. I think sometimes we miss spending enough time on that particular word. So Healy will show, once set up, Healy will show you the database selection. This is where all the Healy programs show up. We go to the bottom of the list and click on all program analysis. Now this is where it gets interesting. All program analysis will give you the top 5 programs for the client. You can be the client because you typically are if you're the one that has purchased the Resonance and it's in your name and so forth. So you're probably the first client that you set up. Now what do? Do we vibrate on all 5 programs, or do we select the top 1, 2, or 3 and go to those individual programs. I've done both. Do I know that one works better than the other? I do not. If I'm vibrating on all 5 programs, that's easier. I just push the vibrate button once. I select the amount of time that I want to vibrate it. If I don't do that, then I have to go back to the list and select the top program. Maybe it's pain, and then run it that way. So this is a very interesting topic of discussion, and you're going to get different points of view. But I will say this: what I've learned most recently is running the vibration less time rather than more time. So I'm hearing, like today, one of the experts talked about running it 12 minutes. Well, I've run a program. There's a person on this call right now who I've done it for. I've run it for 26 minutes. Did it hurt him? No. Did it work? 15 minutes into the call, he texted me. He said, "I feel great." So there you go. All right. So I'm just putting the different pieces of information out there, and over time we'll probably get a little more clear as to probably what time and what method may be better than the others. But right now, I'll go back to an earlier statement. There are no mistakes here. You can't mess this up. You might be careful with how much time you select, because as I mentioned, you can detox with this program early on particularly. Okay, so what do we do next? Test, that's what I'm talking about. I just mentioned the person 10 miles away, lower back issues. He called, asked, can I run the Healy for him? I run it for 26 minutes. After 15 minutes, he said he's fine. A member direct to me on my team sent me an audio from a medical professional doing a remote session. And she said when she has very little time, she will run the sessions for seconds, and it works. All right, so now you have a range: fast, short, longer. You know, it's just, a lot of times I'll look at the analysis and I'll see that something is really resonating very strong by the percentage that's on the resonance, and I'll decide, well, I'm going to run that particular program a little bit longer rather than shorter. It's confusing because you have options on your resonance where you can run a program for 4 hours, even 8 hours. I don't know anybody that's doing that. But so with those kind of options, it really raises a lot of questions. But for now, I would suggest keep it shorter rather than longer. And if you're not sure that it's working as fast as you would like, shorter times more often. So we get that advice all the time. Let's say there's surgery, or let's say there's a broken bone that's healing, and that's acute. The guidance typically is running for a shorter amount of time and more often. So what's a shorter amount of time? It could be 17 seconds. It could be 1 minute. That's a shorter amount of time. And then it could be 4 or 5 times during the day. So you've already got the idea. What's the right answer? There isn't any one perfect right answer. So it's paying attention. What are you feeling about it? What's Healy trying to tell you? What messages are Healy delivering to you about what you should run and for how long? Okay, so now this is a very interesting story. Okay, and I can tell this story because it's a horse. And I was focused on finding a horse to do remote sessions on. I was intending to attract a horse. Why is that? Well, because in another business, I learned that the horse market is really, really big. And people that have horses, they're usually very open to things that will work and will spend the money on that. So I was targeting to get some testimonials with the horse. And I attracted a horse through a friend of mine in the Florida Keys, and this horse is 70 miles away from me near Orlando. And the horse, what's the problem? Well, the problem with the horse was he twitches a lot. Every noise shocks him, and he's kind of in anxiety and tension. So I ran the analysis on the horse, and I ran a couple programs on the horse, and I selected 12 minutes each for the top 3 programs. And I asked the owner, I said, "Are you noticing anything different?" And she said, "Oh, absolutely." Because a storm had come through and there was lightning and thundering, and he was calm and falling asleep. Never done that. Never did that. Now, the rest of the story is, as time went on and I was doing analysis on this horse, things were coming up that it just didn't make sense to me, that some of these programs were coming up. Things were coming up, like skin, for example. Skin was coming up a lot. Well, the horse has a great coat. So what's going on with that? So I consulted with one of my experts on my team, and she asked me, "Well, are you running the Healy on the owner?" And I said, "No, it never occurred to me, because I mean, I don't know her personally, but I've seen her pictures on Facebook, and she's, you know, a very lovely 29-year-old, vibrant, healthy person. That's what it looked like to me." But when I asked her about her health, I'm not going to go into all the details, but she has a lot of health issues. And so I began focusing on running Healy Resonance Remote on her as well. And as soon as I started doing that, well, first of all, she started feeling better. And the horse started, even the analysis on the horse was showing me that the horse is starting to feel better. And it never would have occurred to me to focus on what's happening with the owner of the horse, or it could be a dog, could be a cat, doesn't matter. So sometimes you have to look at what's coming up in the analysis and saying, well, I need to be making sure that I'm treating everyone in the house. So that's running sessions, rather, not treating. But so that's a very, very fascinating story for me. And it proved to me that Healy, well, I already had a lot of proof because I was running remote sessions as well on people, and they were reporting great results. But animals, there's no placebo effect. They're either better or they're not. And this horse was clearly demonstrating that the Healy was working for the horse. It was a great story. Okay, so I already covered that. So there's a lot more to Healy than the frequencies and the programs, and it gets into the area of our energy centers. And there's a separate analytical set on the resonance, which is for our chakras, and that's really, really fascinating. And it's an interesting area. And I'm not going to tell you that I am an expert on chakras, but I know enough about them that it's really interesting for me to run this analysis periodically and see what is coming up in terms of what are the top, typically the top 3 chakras that need attention is what comes up from that analysis. And then you run the vibration on those chakras, and it helps strengthen them, brings them back to what's normal. And if you saw a chart of this is not a bar chart of the chakras, but there's a bar chart of the chakras, and they're supposed to be really, all 7 chakras on our analysis is supposed to be very close to the top, meaning 100%. And it will identify the 3 that are furthest away from 100%, and that's the ones that we run our analysis on, our programs on. Very cool, really, really, really cool. Okay, so there's so much more to Healy, and I can tell you that I've been using my Healy Resonance since early January of this year, and I thought that I felt pretty confident that I knew quite a bit about Healy, but I got to tell you, as time goes on, I realize there's so much more to know, and there's more available to us in addition to the Healy packages and the Healy Resonance. And I want to emphasize, because I get this question fairly often, there are no monthly charges for Healy packages and Healy Resonance, none. Okay, there are 3 programs that are additional programs that you can subscribe to, and those are monthly charges. They're not required. One of them is the Healy Digital Nutrition app, DNA. The Healy Analyze app, and the Healy Watch and Healy Connect. So there's 3 programs right there: Analyze, Nutritional App, and Connect. And those are optional. And I have mine are on order. I haven't received my watch yet. I do have the apps, and I haven't really spent much time with them yet because I'm waiting for the watch to get here, which should be Thursday. This is really crazy, but it seems a little crazy, but I've experimented with a couple people on how to add the frequency of a product into the Healy list. And I've successfully done that with several essential oils. We're not spending a lot of time on that because I'm not quite sure that it's not really that easy to do, but it can be done. I've issued instructions. I sent out instructions to a couple people, and I've asked them to experiment with this themselves, but it's very, very fascinating. So it could be an aspirin, it could be essential oil, it could be a tomato. There's no limit to what you could load into the Healy list. However, right now, my advice is stick with what the Healy's giving you as a result of the analysis. And because there's enough there to help you. And my suggestion is to have the Resonance package, use it for yourself, then set up a couple clients. Everything else will fall into place at the right time. And the more you do this, the more you work with it, and the more people that you work with, the more knowledge you will have, the more confidence you will have, the easier it will be for you to explain it to people. And this is going to be recorded. It's going to be on YouTube. You're welcome to use this particular presentation. I think this presentation can be better, so I'm always looking for ways to improve it. I'll be looking at making some changes and doing it again probably in a couple weeks. After I get some questions, some comments, and some feedback, then I'll enhance it and we'll go from there. I encourage people to get online, to do webinars. The more you do it, the more comfortable you'll be with it. And I know there's a couple people on this call that do great job with webinars, great job. So I'm not as experienced with that as they are, as you can tell from the start when I had a little trouble with getting these screens to work right. But the only way you get better is by doing it. And that's what I encourage you to do. So thank you for your time and interest. I'm your host, Steve Pollitt. Text me, 727-224-4743. If you have questions, get back with the person that invited you to the call if you're a guest. And I really appreciate everybody's time today. And I enjoyed sharing this information with you. And I hope it's very helpful. So energy flows where intention goes.
Hey, Steve, there are a few questions in the chat box. Are you open to answering them or not?
I have to watch the time because I think we have about 5 minutes before Zoom cuts me off. But I can't see it, so if you read me the question, I'll do my best.
Can we get your text number again? You were fast.
It's on the screen, 727-224-4743.
Steve, hi, this is France. I still trying to understand the process in terms of, do we put the Healy on a photograph of the person? What do we do with the actual Healy? Do we use our thumbprint for the analysis? I mean, the actual methodology?
Yeah, good question. I mean, your Healy can be laying on the counter long as it's on because you're running the analysis and you're running the programs. Okay, so it doesn't have to be anywhere near the person. So I've done remote analysis for someone that's 2,000 miles away, 1,500 miles away, 70 miles away, 10 miles away. Okay, and your question about the thumbprint is when you set the intention. So you're setting the intention, and yes, you're using your finger or your thumb. You're not worried about having the person that's getting the session. You're not worried about their thumb or their fingerprint.
So you just focus on a photograph of the person or animal, or when you're setting the intention?
Well, it's gonna, when you bring up the person or the animal, that client's gonna come up. So you're gonna see the picture. I typically don't really, I think it's gonna be natural. For example, I'll just take the horse. It's natural for me to visualize that horse. But when I'm setting the intention for that horse, I'm just thinking, what is the programs that will resonate the best and help this horse the most. I'm just setting that intention. That's it. It's all frequency.
So a follow-up question on that, if possible. Is it possible for our energetic, you said have the Healy like on a counter. I've experienced a difference between like when I've had it the Healy physically close to me versus further away from me in terms of like I had my first kind of resonance analysis today where the person was like, those don't sound like they're relevant to me. And so, but actually it was the first time I'd actually had the Healy physically on me. Do you know if there's an influence of energy and based upon the analysis, if it's physically on you or separate from you?
First piece of advice is trust the Healy. The Healy will identify what's going to resonate with you the most. And I'm not aware of any difference between whether it's sitting on a desk, on your physical body. I mean, with my resonance, for example, I mean, I live in Florida and I like to walk and it's really hot. And so I'm typically pretty wet. And so I don't have my Healy with me, but I'll set a program to run when I leave the house for me. And it works. I mean, there's no bad answer here. If you feel better by having it close to you or on you, then do it. I know I did that for a long time.
Sorry, I was specifically talking about remote analysis for someone else and about our own energy imprint
no.
possibly influencing a remote analysis.
No, the remote analysis is probably going to influence you as opposed to you influencing.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah.
Interesting stuff. Are you really listening? No.
I can hear it's talking about you take a photograph and then you use your
You ask
device.
questions.
And you're getting information from a photograph?
Alyssa, we can hear you guys.
Yeah, I don't know if that's a question or not. So I'll bring this to a conclusion because I mean, Zoom right now tells me I have 40 minutes, so it seems like it's still running, but we'll bring it to a conclusion. If you have any more questions, feel free to text me. And the ideal situation is going to the person that invited you to the call. And if your sponsor doesn't know the answer, we'll do the best we can to help you. Okay? Thank you very much. Have a good Sunday evening.